Hey guys, it's God's Comic, but you already know that. Today's message is guaranteed to change your life and be the most insightful thing you have ever heard. Guaranteed. But how do I know? Well, because I identify as someone who's profound. Now what are you going to do? Come on in. You know, one surrealistic reality that is constant reminder to me that ideas and ideologies have consequences is this little tidbit of truth in the very not so distant future. A phenomenon that years ago may have seemed incomprehensible is about to become commonplace. One day, if there is nothing to derail its momentum, all of women's sports in the United States and around the world will be played by men, performing as women. Now, why will that be? Because we now have a culture that believes that men who claim to actually be women but use the much more sophisticated and scientifically unsubstantiated word identify as women, somehow these men actually are women. So, if you're a human that has relied on science or biology or logic or reason or human history and reality to guide you in the truth, you're going to have a tough road ahead of you. You know, there was a time in America where there was expected a consensus as to what we as a culture would adhere to as the norm. For advanced civilizations throughout history to flourish, they all had a few things in common, one of which was a moral standard the culture was expected to adhere to. So, in America, for example, there was a time where if you got a divorce, it was considered scandalous. Can you imagine that quaint period in the U.S. where people felt if you made an actual vow to each other, we assumed you would keep it? Have you ever considered the nomenclature of weddings historically and the significance of the words and the rituals? For one thing, the wedding usually took place in a church. Why? Why church? Because a wedding, howbeit a joyous celebration, was also a solemn ceremony, a rite of passage where a man and a woman went willingly from single and autonomous free men to a forever linked group, or one flesh. Becoming one. Shared misery that could be bliss or a horror movie, depending on the maturity and the countenance of the betrothed. But you were willing and with volition, choosing to abandon your selfishness to the other and meld with them, and what they desire now becomes mine as well, and vice versa. Kind of like a reverse spiritual Siamese twins operations without the surgery and the sideshows offering you a gig. Anyways, you also had a pastor or priest or rabbi to officiate, thus telling all the attendees that this person represents God and that God is observing our commitment to each other, so don't take this moment lying down. The upside is the lying down comes with the honeymoon, which is the least God could offer us after the misery we're about to go through, trying to make a go of this absurd expectation that it's possible for a man to ever understand a woman's mind, and women keeping her wits about her no matter how often she finds yesterday's underpants wadded up under the couch because walking to the hamper's too much to ask after a long day at work. Notice also that, as I was mentioned earlier, we were going to exchange vows. Now, vows is the chosen word. We're not exchanging poems or platitudes or trying our best or even promises, for that matter. We're making a vow, which is a promise on steroids. A vow is the very bonds of commitments, all right? We then experience this ritual in front of not friends or attendees or guests. No, we refer to this group as our witnesses. A witness observes a crime and testifies when called as to what they saw, Witnesses were invited to supposedly hold us accountable to the words we were exchanging as having weight and significance. And they could remind us not to take this lightly, because this was supposed to be the first and last time you will ever utter these words on earth until death do us part. Holy crap. What a statement. Whenever else in your whole life will you commit to something with that kind of gravitas? We don't even do that as parents. I promise to love and protect these kids of mine until death do us part. No, it's more like trying not to kill them ourselves when they become teenagers, right? We don't make that vow for pets, even though some people think of pets as their kids. You know, I promise to take care of rascals until death do us part. Not my death, his, when we're forced to put you to sleep because you have arthritis. And lastly, we even exchange rings to each other that come in the shape of a circle to represent our unending, never to be broken love and commitment. Not to mention, visual reminder to all you single ladies out there, sorry girls, this stallion's been corralled. You'll have to settle for second best, I'm afraid. But my point is that whenever a culture no longer expects the highest morality from its citizens, well, the slippery slope will very soon lead to not expecting any standards at all. The commonality of divorce set in motion more destruction and fracturing of the foundation of the necessary components to a thriving, functional community than maybe any other new norm in America's history. See, there was a time in America where you could actually be expected to experience shame based on your behavior and or neglect of doing the hard thing. Now, based on self-righteousness of everyone else, by the way, being married wasn't just some kind of formalized partnership between a man and a woman for some kind of contrived commitment to each other. It was a compact to each other and the community that you would maintain a home, have children, raise them to be polite, civilized, productive citizens that would leave the earth with more than they took. But the point I'm making is there were some people who did in fact get divorced even then. By the way, it wasn't illegal or forbidden, but if you did, there was a price to pay. You had broken your vow, not just to each other, but to the rest of us. Expected you to live out your obligation to each other in order to maintain a solid normative structure that was good for us all, and assured us that we, as a society, weren't going to be raising your kids for you. It was your obligation. Remember, we were witnesses when you made that promise. All that to say that the imploding of a moral society starts with the deconstruction of its few sacred elements. Once those are no longer sacrosanct, then all bets are off. When the most important components are considered trivial and irrelevant, well, then you can rest assured what will fill the vacuum will be so ridiculous you couldn't make it up. Whether you believe in God or not, the laws of God remain forever the fabric of reality. Reap what you sow. If you sow absurdity, guess what you reap? Men identifying as children. This is really happening. Women identifying as cats. Can a minor league baseball player now identify as a little league age player? Keep in mind, since I'm out to destroy political correctness, that one of its weapons is that if you draw comparisons to absurdity by showing where it could lead, you'll be immediately demeaned and attacked. That's what cancel culture is. It's staining your character with a slanderous accusation that has no grounds for support, but because the media and the academia are in cahoots with the PC concept that all normalcy is oppressive and thus needs to be ridiculed and abandoned, your average American has nowhere to turn for support from the logical majority, and thus usually allows the attack to go unanswered, and thus, by their silence, seem to be acknowledging its legitimacy. The good news is, in this instance, I'm going to play your game using your rules. For this episode, I identify as someone who is right about my point of view. I also identify as someone that if you challenge me, slander me, bully me, and insult me, you are admitting that you are bigoted, arrogant, self-righteous, jackass. And you just want to own my liberty and silence my dissent. I can't wait for the troll comments with names attached now. Welcome to Bizarro World, people. How's it feel, woke crowd? Odd? You started it. This is God's Comic Brad Stine. Oh, PC free. Whew. That is liberty. Hey guys, I identify as somebody who demands that you go subscribe to my YouTube channel, Brad Stine Has Issues, on my Facebook, follow it. Let's build an army. Come see me live doing my comedy shows. I'm telling you what, something is happening in America and you can join in. So go subscribe right now, where I identify as somebody who will be so angry with you that you'll have to send me money. I took a shot.